Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Necromanticer and I'll be taking over for Phoenix today since he's a bit under the weather and has lost his voice. He'll be right as rain come Monday, but for now I hope you enjoy this substitute. Today we'll be playing Star Realms. Star Realms is an in-depth deck building game that exemplifies easy to learn but hard to master. The real trick about the game is that all of the deck building is part of the actual gameplay. It works with a very simple 3-resource system of health, damage, and currency. Respectively, they're called Authority, Combat, and Trade. Each card gives you the resources listed on its face. Trade and Combat are cleared at the end of every turn, and the goal is to reduce your opponent's health to 0. The final thing to bring up before we hop into a game is the factions. You start each game with a set of 10 factionless cards, but you should be looking to immediately transition into a specific faction. Each of the 4 unique factions has a different playstyle and self-synergies that make them powerful in their own right. The Space Federation is a strong fleet based upon economy and a wall of versatile outposts. They use card synergies for limited draw power but have high amounts of trade and are the only faction that allow you to heal damage that's been done to you. Blue lacks any real hitting power but forms a great backbone for building a deck. The Star Empire is a focused military machine that is built to pound the enemy into submission. Whether they are using hard-hitting outposts or waves of light fighters, they are a military powerhouse that can even make your opponents discard cards. However, the Star Empire pays for their strength with a pitiful economy. If you're going to build yellow, you'll need to supplement them with another faction for trade. The Blob are a vicious Xenos threat that use horde tactics of biological entities to take down their opponents. They have plenty of damage and the highest capacity for draw power in the game. That being said, they rely heavily on synergy to get the most out of their cards, so you'll need to build a lot of green to get your money's worth. And finally, the Machine Cult. They have very limited damage and trade, but they have the most utility in that they allow you to scrap cards from your deck. This will trim the fat of your deck and allow you to remove base unaligned ships to improve your chances of drawing really important cards. Almost every build should feature at least a little red. Now that we have the basis for the various factions that make up the game, let's hop into a match for the computer to give you a real demonstration. We're going to be facing the medium AI today to kind of give you a feel for the game. I go first, so I only draw 3 out of my 5 full cards, so I'm going to play all of those, and it looks like the best idea would be to grab the ram and hope for some sort of trade objects a little bit later. You can actually see all the information you need about a card right on the face of it. It's very clean user interface, and I really like that about it. The trade cost is in the upper right hand corner, the faction in the top left, and all the effects and whatnot are below the graphic. The graphics all look really great and interesting and are all very well themed, but I don't necessarily think that they're too important since eventually you just start seeing cards as the stats that they are. This one is actually an outpost and is a shield outpost. All these shield outposts must be targeted before any non-shield outposts can be targeted, as well as it has the ability to be scrapped in order to provide 3 extra combat. So, pretty nice card in general. Okay, I drew 3 more trade and 2 combat this turn, while I wait for him to go about his. I already grabbed 1 green card, which means that I'm going to want to start building in that direction, so I'll grab the Blob Fighter as well. And I've got the option between the Corvette and the Explorer, or maybe the Imperial Fighter, but I think I'm going to go with the Explorer because I'm going to need a lot more trade in the turns to come. So that's what I'm going to get, and focus on hitting the AI with most of my combat, since there's no other targets available for myself. He picks up the trading outpost, which means I'm left with kind of a dearth of trade on the field. There's the central office, which would give me 2 and a nice effect, but it costs 7 trades, so I actually can't pick that up just yet. As such, I'm going to go with the ability to have a little bit more card draw, and I get some nice extra draw power in there as well. Since I'm already building into yellow, let's keep going and grab up that Imperial Fighter, and we can end the turn like that. Now, I'm going to be able to show you a little bit of card synergy. I have both the Ram and the Blob Fighter, so both of their synergy effects are going to activate. Not only am I going to get 2 extra combat from the Ram, but I'm also going to draw a card based on the Blob Fighter's effect. So, let's see what I get. Gets me a little bit of extra trade, which is going to go to waste since I don't have anything to spend it on, but you know what, counter that. I actually can scrap this here ram to get 3 extra trade in order to pick up the blob destroyer, which has a better effect in my opinion. And the rest of the combat goes straight to the face for the medium AI. I draw a nice hand of trade. So far there's only 1 card on the field that I can purchase with this, but it's trash. But luckily he gets rid of that and allows me to purchase that ram. The ram, as I've already shown, is a lot of combat and gives you some utility in that you can discard it for more trade later if you see something else that you want more. He is using the recycling station, which allows him to discard cards to draw that many more, so it helps him to really cycle through his deck at a rather fast clip, so I'm going to want to take that out so he lacks that option in the future. I'm just going to grab another Explorer because, again, I really need more trade now that everything on the field costs at least 6 or more. That is one of the issues that you can find as you progress through the game, is that a lot of the cards start costing quite a bit, but I think it works out, especially because there's a lot of cards that can clear openings. Both the Battle Pod and the Blob Destroyer have the ability to destroy cards out of the middle row, and I'm going to be taking advantage of that to clear some of these out and hopefully get some things that I can get in return. I see that trade pod and immediately I'm going to snag that up because it's one of the best cards for the blobs in my opinion. And I'm also going to want to get rid of these explorers because they're unaligned and just kind of clutter the deck, so I can scrap both of those for extra combat damage. As you can see, my deck's starting to come together quite nicely. I've got a lot of yellow and green and the theme is just continuing onwards. I'm going to pick up another Corvette this turn. And you can look at your deck at any time to see what it is. And at this point, it is 7 cards, 8 if you count my current hand, into the theming, which works out quite nicely. Pick up that Corvette, and I have the option of picking up the Missile Bot or the Explorer. Since I'm already so far through the game, I think that just continuing with my current setup is going to work just fine. Normally, you want to pick up cards like the Missile Bot that allow you to actually scrap sometime in the early game, but I didn't get that option, so I'm just going to have to deal with the hand I was dealt. Lovely, I get an Imperial Frigate, which is a very, very powerful card. It allows you to discard a card. Sorry, it forces your opponent to discard a card as well as providing a lot of combat, and if you scrap it, you can actually discard a card. You can actually draw an extra card, so I have enough to get the Blob Destroyer, and I'm going to discard the Ram in lieu of the Frigate since I think it's actually a better card, at least at this stage of the game when more of your cards kind of have value. I don't need to use any of the effects there because I'm fine with what the trade row looks like. I don't like discarding cards that have a draw card effect because no matter what, they're definitely worthwhile. Let's just play everything since I have no interactions, and let's pick up both the Trade Pod and Imperial Fighter since they both fit within my factions. And unless something egregious happens, I should have the damage to... Oh, I was going to say that I had the damage to kill him off, but he actually put up some bases and had that cutter which healed him up some, so that's no longer an option. At this point, I just need to clear what's there, get rid of that, because, again, blue is never going to benefit me, and I want to take away his options. Let's grab an Explorer to kind of replace the 2 that I'm discarding here, blast through with all of my combat, and now I wait for my next hand. This is a little bit better, as it allows me to have some draw power, but it's still not great. I'm really looking for some of my heavy-hitting cards that have the destroy a base effect, and I'm just not getting them. Let's punch on through. Yeah, I definitely want to discard the Explorer so that I have enough to clear all the way through. And out of these options, the Flagship is best since, again, it allows me to draw a card. Imagine if I had destroyed that earlier, I would have had to either go with nothing or start building into red. Oh dear, things are really not looking good for me. My health is really low. Now that it's my turn again, I notice that he has a very powerful outpost on the field, but I have nothing to deal with in my hand. and I don't draw into anything, so I kind of just have to bite the bullet on this one. I have no options, and I think that out of these, the best option would be to grab the missile neck, and now I just need to bash him in the face because damage to outpost doesn't actually accumulate. You have to destroy an outpost outright, otherwise, oh my. Well, that tends to happen. It seems that the tables have been turned and he actually managed to get all the combat he needs to kill me off, so that's quite disappointing, but that is how the game works. I have been defeated, and as you can see, games can turn on a dime. I think I established a very powerful early game, but my lack of red meant that I really wasn't drawing into the cards I needed when it came to endgame, and that's what happens. I definitely suffered for it, but that's what you need to be looking out for. This game is very intricate and allows for comeuppances like that, so you always want to be sure that you're optimizing your deck as best as possible. As I just showed, games can be completed in anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, and this is a real strength of the game. These short matches make for a great diversion if you have a few minutes to spare, or let you squeeze a lot of play into a set amount of time without worrying about losing half an hour of game time just because you had to leave before completing a match. Since it's also available on Android and iOS, it can be taken and played on the go whenever you have a spare moment. If you're looking for a more challenging opponent, you can use the matchmaking to face real live opponents on a turn-by-turn basis. The problem with this is that you have a full 48 hours to respond before forfeiture, so your opponent may slow roll you and drag out a match for quite some time. If PvE is more your speed, then there's a whole campaign with customized starting decks, extra effects, win conditions, and even boss fights that allow you to completely change the way you're playing the game. Once you've completed a mission on the standard difficulty, you unlock the hard mode, which further alters the game settings and improves the enemy's decision making. The campaign also has a rudimentary story, but the characters and events are unimportant, so you need only read up on the settings of the individual missions before you jump in. Honestly, the story feels like an afterthought, but the gameplay is more than enough to carry the game. The diversity of cards, scenarios, and combos keeps the game feeling fresh with each new match, and you'll soon find yourself recognizing and hoping for certain cards to play. You may even develop a favorite faction or playstyle that brings all the more gratification when you can pull it off. While I do think the card graphics are mostly fluff, they feel well defined and are easily recognizable, lending a sense of characterization to the cards that themselves far surpass the story characters. Overall, this game is a constantly changing race to balance expansion and raw damage, with many mechanics and interactions to consider at any given moment. If you're a fan of strategy deck building games or would like to give them a try, this is the game for you. There's a full demo available free on their site, and the full game costs a mere $5. There's even a pricier physical card set for those of you who want to share with friends and family around the house. I myself have played quite a number of matches and consider it money well spent. Thank you for watching, and be sure to like, subscribe, and wish Phoenix well in the comments below. It really helps the channel grow, and I'm sure Phoenix will appreciate it. If you liked what you saw, feel free to give my channel a look. I release a lot of Dark Souls 2 content, and am poised to be branching into other games in the coming weeks. Once again, I'm Necromanticer, thank you so much for watching, and have a nice day.